and welcome back to my channel. So I am on to share a very special day with you guys. So any of you that follow Julia McNeil, JMC Designs, will know that Julia has produced her own stamps and paper line, and she is working with Hochanda to sell her product. So as a member of her design team, I got sent some of the product to have a play with and to see what I could make up some samples for Julia to take with her to Hochanda, which has been really exciting for me. So I've had the opportunity to have a sneak peek at what she's been creating and also the excitement of making some things that are going to be shown on the television. So, as you can see in front of you, these are the stamps and the paper pack. So if I just show you them individually. So first of all, we've got the paper pack, and this collection is the Curious Wonder collection, and it's all sort of Alice in Wonderland themed. So each pack comes with toppers. So you get the larger 4 toppers, and you get this selection of the smaller toppers, and the toppers you get A4 top sheet, 4, so 2 of each design. Now I've already used some. Julia did send me some, and I've bought this pack, but I've used some of the one that Julia sent, well, most of the ones that Julia sent me, and I've used some of my own as well. You then get your papers, and there's 40 papers, 10 different designs, and 4 of each sheet. So that's the first one with the Wonderland. I'm struggling to get it all in my camera because it's A4 and my camera's set quite low. So we've got that one. We've got this one. I love this one. I love all the sort of splatter and the grid paper in the side there. I really like that one. Then you've got this one, which is really fun because you've got the lovely sort of almost looks like a sort of time whirl pattern there with the checkerboard floor, but you've also got some like sayings that you can cut apart. So I've used these quite a lot as cut aparts. You've got various different sayings there. You've got this one, which has got all the clocks in the background, and it's got the Cheshire Cat down at the bottom there. And then we've got this one, which again is a cool sort of, you know, you can use this as a background paper, really good for sort of mixed media because it's already got some of that mixed media elements to it. So you've got some of the writing, which is come sort of fading in and out with the spots and the swirl, so it's quite a few sort of patterns all blended together. Then you've got this one, which has got, again, it's got all the writing in the background, but this one's got the grid pattern and some colours through it. And then you've got the flowers all down the side there, and I've used those a lot to actually cut them out and turn them into little paper flowers. You've then got this one, which again, it sort of reminds me of that checkerboard floor sort of type pattern, but obviously it's in the diamonds with the red bits, so I really like that one. This one I just think is an amazingly versatile pattern. You could use that, you know, not just with this collection, it would just go with so much. I love that one. And that might be one of my favourite ones out of the pack. And you've got this one, again with the flowers that you can, you know, cut apart and actually use as flowers, or you can use it as the paper. And then you've got this one, which is lovely for scene building. Obviously you've got all the little quirky houses that Julia's drawn and coloured in the background there, and you could sort of build and layer on top of that. So that's the papers. We've then got the stamp sets. So we've got Harriet, Hart and Chester. So it's the Queen of Hearts, obviously, and Chester the cat, and then some of her sort of quirky elements to go with it. And these are brilliant for doing that sort of, again, that mixed media sort of effect. Wonderville with one of the quirky houses, and the flamingo at the top there, and some of her quirky plants. Later Clock, I love this one with the clock house. It's one of my favourites, this one, with the little bunny and Time for Tea. And then you've got Hattie Harris with 2 of Julia's lovely characters. And there's that little element which is repeated from one of the pattern papers. And again, the clock as well. Just so many elements that you can use to build things up. She also has some MDF. Now there's not an awful lot left in this box because I've been using, but I'll show you it as we go along. So this is what I've got left out of the MDF pack. And she's also got some resins, but I don't actually have the resins. But she has released a set of resins as well. So let me show you what I've made. So I started off by making some cards. So this is the first one that I've made. So as you can see, I've taken that paper with Alice in the Wonderland. I've done some stamping in the background here with some of the stamps. And this is where I've cut apart some of the sentiments off of that piece of paper. I've also cut Alice out of another sheet of paper and layered her on top, so it's like a sort of decoupage effect. And in the background there, I've got one of those lovely black and white papers with the hearts on the background there. I've put a few pearls on and a little bit of glossy accents, but I didn't, you know, you don't need to add a lot to this collection. This is my second card, so I've just incorporated a couple of the papers in the background there. Again, I've put some glossy accents on some of the hearts, so that's given them a bit of shimmer and shine. And underneath the glossy accents, I'd had put a little bit of Winker Stella pen, so they sparkle even more. Again, I've made a sentiment up out of the one of the papers, stamped and coloured in the image, and then done a little bit of stamping in the background with a coordinating colour, so it's quite sort of subtle, but it just gives that sort of background effect. So that's that one. And then the final card that I made was this one, so I've used that really vibrant patterned paper in the background there, some of the lovely graph one on top of that, some of the sky from the one with all the houses. I've then stamped and coloured this little image, and again used one of the stamps in the background there. The little stamp there with one of Julia's squiggles. I've cut out one of the flowers and popped that on, and this was just a leftover strip from something else that I'd been cutting, and I thought, oh, it just makes a lovely little sort of banner on the side there, and so that's that one. I then made a couple of tags. So I started out with a big chunky tag. And as you can see, I've used some of the patterned paper that's got some of the village in the background there. I've stamped and cut out one of the little mushrooms and popped that up, so it's given it a little bit of dimension. I've cut out some of the flowers and given them a little bit of shape, and then just added a pearl in the centre. And then I've stamped and coloured the little bunny, popped that one on. I've made a little sentiment up out of the stamp set by using there's 5 different stamps there to make that little sentiment up. And then I've again cut out and I've heat embossed these hearts, and then I've fractured them by just cracking them and then laying them onto some hot glue to make them stand up a little bit. And then I've just drawn some stitching around the edge of the blue part, added some ribbons on, and that's my tag. And then I made a little tag, and that's to go with a bag that I've made. So this was my little tag. So I've just used some of that really lovely graph paper in the background there. One of the sentiments, I've just laid that on a scrap of holographic paper that I had. And I've cut and coloured the Cheshire Cat. But I've done him in pinks to match the flowers and a bit of stamping in the paper. These little flowers I've made by stamping. There's a little flower stamp in one of the stamp sets, so I've stamped that in pink and then inked it a little bit with some pink. I've stamped it on some of the paper, actually, just some of the scraps of the paper, and then just sort of inked round it, and again just popped a little pearl in the centre, and then I've just hand cut some little leaves from just some of the green scraps from one of the pieces of paper. And again just tied on some ribbons, and that's that little tag. And I actually made that to go with a bag that I've made. So I just altered a brown paper bag. I bought these in Home Bargains, I think, and it is just like a little pop-up. It's quite sturdy, actually. They're quite nice bags with the craft sturdy handles, and I've just wrapped a little bit of ribbon around that. And then I've made like a little plaque to go on the front here. So I've just laid it on some black cardstock. I've taken the piece of patterned paper that's got the swirl. I've stamped all around that with the clock stamp and a little cloud stamp that's in one of the stamp sets. I've stamped and coloured the quirky clock house. And again, I've put some of those clear heat embossed stamps that I cut out of one of the papers and scattered those about. I've cut and coloured some of the little stamped elements. Again, I've made a sentiment. I'm not crazy, my reality is just different to yours. And I've made a little paper flower out of the paper from the stamp set, from the paper set. I've had so much fun with this, I carried on going. So I made a little paper wand. So I just made a paper rosette out of the paper, just using a scoreboard. I've put a little bit of vellum just in the back there, just to separate so that you could see Hattie a bit more. This is one of the MDF pieces. This one I've just painted it with a little bit of white gesso and then picked out some of the elements with my alcohol markers. I've then made some more of those paper flowers. Obviously I've cut, this is Hattie's cut out of the pattern. She's actually cut out one of the toppers. And then I made a bow out of the paper pack just by cutting some strips and then sort of tapering them in a little bit just to give it a little bit of shape here. Cut some tails, and then from the paper I just wrapped cut a strip of paper, made it a little bit damp, and then wrapped it round the barrel of a pen and left it there till it dried, and that made this lovely sort of curly whirly. So that's my wand. I made a couple of little embellishments, so again just little rosettes, and I've just made them out of the paper with a circle of a coordinating paper from the pack on the top there. These are the cups and the teapots are MDF elements from the MDF pack, and these are words just cut out of the paper pack. And I've just coloured them with my alcohol markers and then stamped the little hearts, again using the stamps from the set. And then I did the same on this one, but this time it was the cups, but I've done them all in the same way. So that's my little embellishments. I made a 3D puzzle piece. I quite like doing altered jigsaw pieces, so as you can see this really is just a jigsaw piece from an old kids jigsaw. I've layered some of the purple clock patterned paper in the background there, and then just gone round with a scalpel knife and cut the paper to match the jigsaw piece. I've inked all around the edges with a bit of black soot ink, and then I've used some of the toppers to layer, so one of the bigger ones, and I've just cut it off, and then layered on top this one that looks a bit like a quirky playing card with the sort of twirly whirly queen. I've put the word Curious from the pack there, and I've just made some paper flowers and a couple of little flat backs there, and that finishes that one off. Absolutely love that one, that's one of my favourite ones. I've also done the MDF hat, so this is, now I'm going to find it hard to get this one in the shot because it's quite big. So this is one of the things that she's created. It's this 3D MDF hat. So this is what I did with it once I'd finished gessoing it and one thing and another. As you can see, I've used, this was actually a napkin that I'd got, and I just, I put some cling film, while it was all still flat and in pieces, I put some cling film over the MDF, and then I put a napkin which I'd already ironed on top of that, and then I just pressed it with the iron. And if you get the right type of cling film, I find the really cheap rubbish stuff is the best. The cling film will melt and then act as a glue to glue your napkin down, and then you get a perfectly flat, almost painted like finish on the background, as opposed to getting wrinkles which you sometimes get with napkins. Once that had set, I did go over it with a coat of matte medium just to sort of set it all in place, and then I just used a nail file to go around the edges and take the edges of the napkin off. On top of that I have layered, so these are again MDF elements from Julia's MDF pack. I've heat embossed them in black and in red, and layered those on. Some of the sentiments that I've cut out of the paper. Again, some of the paper flowers and a little element that I've cut from the paper. This is Hattie. I have cut her from the topper set. And this quirky sign post came from the MDF set. And I've just cut little tiny words from the papers, and I just thought that looked brilliant with all the little words up and down it. Again, I've got some of the MDF. I've got a gold club. I didn't want to make it black because it just receded too much into the background, so that's why I went gold with that one, with the little red diamond behind. And these are all from the MDF pack. You can just see there's a spade, a black spade in the background there. One of the little cups. The little table with the cup and saucer, the cup and the teapot, that's actually part of the hat MDF set. So I just sort of stamped and coloured those and then heat embossed them clear to make them look sort of almost ceramic. And I've, again, heat embossed the leg of the table. Put a little bit of wood grain effect paper on the top. That was just in my scrap bin. And then I've put this lovely Cheshire Cat just hiding under the table there, and then that will stand up. Let's see if I can move the camera a little bit, so that stands like that. So I absolutely love that one. And then the final piece that I made for this collection was this little treasure chest. So just tilt that so you can see it. So this is the front of my chest. As you can see, I painted the whole thing black. It was a papier-mâché little chest. I've painted the whole thing with black gesso a couple of times, and then I've layered on some of that really lovely sort of quirky checkerboardy type paper in the background there. On the front, I've used another one of those MDF elements on the side there, and then I've just put some blobs of hot glue, and while it was still hot I sprinkled some red glitter on. This love heart is again from the MDF set, and I have heat embossed that with some red and then some holographic embossing powder over the top of that. I've cut and coloured this lovely little image in, and then layered the Wonderland over the top. On top of that I have put I've heat embossed the club and the spade in black embossing powder, and I've set it on a bed of hot glue. And again, whilst that was still hot, I sprinkled some red glitter over the top of that. To one side I have stamped, using Julia's stamp set, the various little elements of the clubs and the queue and that little quirky border there. I've coloured elements, and then again I've heat embossed it all with a layer of clear embossing powder to make it look like ceramic. And then I've done matching cups on the other side, and again these are from the MDF bag. You'll have to excuse my hands, they are quite grubby because, as you can see, I've been playing with lots of black gesso and black ink. And this little chest does open up, so you can store your little treasures in there. So those are the things that I've made to go off to Hochanda with Julia as she releases her product line. So I've hoped you've enjoyed having a quick look at what I've created, and I do hope that you'll support Julia as she starts her new business venture. So thanks ever so much for watching. I will leave the links below for some of the other ladies' channels so that you can go along and see what they've been creating. And also don't forget to join Julia's Facebook group, because there's lots more of the design team that post over there as well that don't have YouTube channels. So again, I'll leave the link for that in the description box below. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I hope that you've enjoyed it here, and if you did, please do consider subscribing to my channel and click that bell icon, because then you'll get a notification each time I upload a new video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.